Yeah, now stand and cheer for your Talking Basketball podcast. Welcome back to this episode. This is the second part of a double header. If you haven't heard the first, go back and listen to it. If you can't be bothered, that's all right. Just keep listening to this one, and hopefully you enjoy it. And don't forget, like and subscribe. I hate it when people say that. Wow. Steve, I mean, we got to talk about, in those days at the Mountbatten Centre, the Portsmouth FC basketball club, I mean, they were really special days, and definitely from a Portsmouth perspective, it really feels like we're chasing that to get back to those, well, we would definitely call them the glory days. I mean, we've got potentially recorded up to like 1,200 people coming to watch you. And that's where we know people who have said to us, yeah, I went to go and watch those guys, and I was like 3 deep on the balcony trying to watch it. And it always feels like we're chasing to get back to those days. Would you say that's just us, or is that maybe a wider thing?
I definitely think there's an element of acknowledgement of the connection we seem to build with the supporters back then, and I don't know if it exists in the same way anymore, because I feel like it got to the point where, and I know we were, stars as such, but I felt, we were approachable. You could talk to us at any time. There was no separation between us and the fans. Even down to going for a drink immediately after the game in the bar upstairs, and always been one of the first ones up there as a young, when I was in that first year, and again only playing 11 minutes, pretty much been ignored, and then the stars coming up and everybody flocking around them, and I do remember those days fondly. But for me, it was I did a lot of growing up in Portsmouth. I met my wife in Portsmouth. We've been together, for a long time now, Sarah and I. But we met in Portsmouth by sheer chance, actually, the first time. So, I've got a lot of fun memories about growing up there. For me, the second and third years were definitely more impactful in terms of, what was going on court and feeling a part of it and being involved. But yeah, I remember those crowds, man. I remember, Bubba Jennings game against Crystal Palace, where he came out and absolutely destroyed us. And from the first, I still remember that first play where he just took about 2 dribbles over the halfway line and just casually launched it with Joel in the perfect defensive stance about 10 feet away from him, thinking there's no way he's going to shoot from here, and it just was swish. And and looking around and hearing the roar of the crowd. The game we lost to Manchester by 1 when we could have won the league, and then I think we won it the next game. Things like that I really do stand out for me in those early formative days about what it's like to be part of the team. But I also remember the injuries as well, and but there's so much I enjoyed about it, and it definitely set me up on the right course. And I don't think I've ever been looked after quite as well as I was at Portsmouth.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just in terms of getting the basics right, getting paid on time.
Dusty pockets comes through again.
I've been at a couple of places where that was not the case.
Yeah, I know a fact. I know a fact, but I don't know the number. But I know that roughly it's either 3 or 4 of the first teams that Steve played for ended up folding. Is it 3 or is it 4, Steve? Is that right?
I think it's the first 4. I think, it's the first 4. I think,
Telford.
I thought for a while I was jinxed. So Telford went first, basically, and they got bought by Portsmouth. And Jason's told the story of John Deacon basically having enough, being too old to be bothered, and saying, all right, fine, here you go. And I did have that conversation with him. because I was on holiday. I read it in the paper.
Oh no!
I was in Rimini in Italy with Sarah actually, and I read I think it was a 2-day-old Daily Mail, a little piece that said John Deacon was getting with the Portsmouth Basketball Club. So I then made a phone call home and set up my meeting with John Deacon for when I got back. Walked in, he was like, "Yeah, decided I've had enough." So how much do we owe you? Okay, well, let's round it up to this. Thank you very much. It's been great having you.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yeah, he said something. Jason said the same thing. He just went, "Let's round it up." Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you went and bought the car.
What a really nice way to do it then.
Yeah, it did. It really helped to get me a bit of a cushion, especially then as the next team I went to, basically Olympic City Giants, first stopped paying me, but weren't paying me all they should have been. Then asked me to move out of the place that I was supposed to live in, to live somewhere temporarily, which I never got out of. I never got paid a good chunk of the money I was owed. I got some of it back a good while later, but it didn't make up for everything in between. And then Sunderland, that's when I thought I was ill-fated. I was jinxed in some way. First year, great, Again, I'm still a pretty young player at this stage. I get my own car. I get money to rent my own place. I've got my name on the side of the car. It's all going great. Think it's all wonderful. Then the second year, I don't know, something really strange happened. But the guy who owned us, his offices ended up getting raided by somebody for something. And then he kind of just disappeared.
Oh.
And suddenly we had Dave Elderkin as our boss, coach, and financier. And but that was the year though, with 7 players, and let me see if I can get all 7 of us. Russ Saunders, Steve Bucknell, Scott. What was his last name? Ginger-headed guy, Scott. I'll come back to him. So there was Russ, Steve Bucknell, Pete Scants, Scott, me as the starters. Then we had Dougie, Paul Douglas, and it's gonna kill me now. One other guy, his name I can't remember. Still not that experienced. Paul. I'm not going to dwell on it. 7 of us went to the WICB tournament.
Wow.
And we were warming. The 7 of us are warming up because Clyde Vaughan had gone home. Some of the local guys decided they weren't going to London for Christmas. They're going to stay home with their families, especially who weren't being paid.
This was when you had like you had some huge team, wasn't it, down the other side, on the other end?
Yeah, we started off against, I think they were like one of the top French teams, right? And there's 7 of us, and literally they were laughing at us warming up. I'm not joking. We're warming up, and as you get to the laughter, and the Americans are laughing and joking, pointing at us. And we came out and we whooped, and we beat by about 50. And basically with 5 guys and 2 brief subs. But we just destroyed them. And then we played an American team, I think, in the semi-final. Oh no, we played the Australian Institute of Sport as well. We beat them, and then I think we beat another team, with 7 guys, and we were ridiculously undersized. Apart from we had 1 big guy, we had no subs, and we won the WICB tournament with 7 players. I've got a picture of an article somewhere.
That is very cool. Yeah, that is very, very cool.
I love the fact that the other team are taking a mick down the other end. I mean, that is just pure fuel if you're the other team, isn't it? You're just sitting there just going, right, pure fuel.
Send them a baguette after the game.
But what was even funny was when we were back in Sunderland about a week later or so, and the local press came along to take some pictures. and the rest of the team come starting up for the picture. We're like, no. Clybourne, you can't be in this picture. You were in this tournament.
Yeah. Oh,
it's the
brilliant.
7, the magnificent 7.
Oh, I like that. That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not coming in this.
You tapped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good.
I mean, the other thing is, I know it's been talked about, and I'm fairly confident this was Portsmouth FC days. So we're talking about like European games and stuff like that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I was very young, but from what I read, Portsmouth weren't overly successful when it came to Europe. We would go out quite early.
We definitely weren't. The one that really stands out, we played a Yugoslavian team at home, and we beat them by 5-6, close game. We beat them, and we travelled out to where they were a day or two early, so to get acclimatised, use the court, all of that, prepared great. And as you're out and about, and we weren't drinking, I'll make that really clear. You go out to have a meal or have a glass of Coke and do a bit of sightseeing in the day or whatever when you're not practicing. Everybody knows, oh, you're the team, well, we will beat you. And oh no, sorry, I'm lying, we won the game by 20 points. We beat them at home by 20 points, right?
I was just thinking, you killed them, didn't you? You really beat them. Yeah.
Yeah, so we go to the gym and you're wondering, and this is, I think Jason might have referenced some of the netting around the court and all of that, and you wonder why it's all there. You come back at game time, as we're walking in, literally this crowd is on top of you and they are screaming at you. They are screaming. We had 3 referees, and I started this game. I remember we had a Bulgarian, a Romanian, and another Eastern European referee. I can't remember what the third one was, right? The first play of the game, we won the tip. I think Mike Spade won the tip.
Mike Spade.
Tipped it to Alan Cunningham. He took 2 dribbles down the wing and he dunked the ball. And when I tell you, there was a guy literally hanging on him and the referee did not call a thing, that lets you know how the first half went.
Oh, really?
They did not blow the whistle. They pressed us the whole time. The referee never blew a whistle. By half time, we were down 20.
Just suck the whistle.
Unbelievable. Right now,
wow.
I don't remember a lot of the details of the game, but second half, I remember being nip and tuck, and we ended up losing the second half by 5 points and going out on an aggregate loss because we were sure we would go through to the next round. So the next day, let's just say, Dan Lloyd was none too pleased. All right, so he had us up right at the crack of dawn the next morning, and we were right near a jetty, and there was a boathouse, but he had like a zigzag slope up to it, right, 4 levels or something, and he was like, "Okay, run the slope." He had us out there running the slope and running sprints and laps and press-ups and sit-ups till at one point, as I was even walking back towards the hotel, he said us doing stuff. Mike Spade is in a little children's park, throwing up with a bunch of little kids looking at him like, what is he doing? So yeah, we got spanked. It was definitely a case of 8 against 1. So
okay.
Definitely felt like that.
I mean, that's harsh, isn't it? So they weren't calling, you were getting hacked down one end and they were calling nothing. Were they calling like tippy tap fouls on you down the other end?
We got no calls. They got every call.
Ugh.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Because we were like, there's no way. With this time we ain't giving up a 20-point lead. It wasn't basketball though, but it is the most hostile environment I think I've ever played in.
And where do you say that was?
Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia. It was before Yugoslavia was split into the 6 countries it is now. But don't ask me to remember the name of the team, man. I'm no good on those details.
I tell you what, I would almost guarantee that Scoop would have this on the Portsmouth FC basketball page. I would bet my life on it. In those days, was there anything that said were the referees under review from like Europe?
Come on, man. We're a minnow of an English team. We're playing against a Yugoslavian powerhouse. We're not supposed to win anyway. You know, so and the you know, the comrades in arms were officiating. I think it only might have been two officials actually at the time. So it was a Bulgarian and a Romanian. Yeah, but we just got nothing. We got absolutely nothing. And that was. I've had a couple of experiences like that where it's just, you know, you just think something's not quite right here. It was the same with Thames Valley actually. The brief time I had with them, we went and played in Croatia. But you get nothing. We weren't good enough though.
No.
And the other thing I played in Europe with Sunderland, we just played completely the wrong way. And wondered why we got beat. But there you go.
This Wikipedia page for Portsmouth FC Basketball Club is so massive that I'm struggling to quickly scroll through, but I'm so confident that I've read it in there.
It's not because it's because you've not got your glasses on.
Possibly.
But those interactions with playing internationally must obviously a lot of the things that you've talked about are being sort of like learning experiences. And you go, I realise, okay, this is how I'm going to play. If I want to do this, I've got to defend. If I do that, now I'm getting on the team. It's another sort of learning experience where you go, sometimes it's just not going to be fair. It just doesn't.
100%, and all you can do is your best. And I mean, I think the other thing, the coaching point for me, when you've got a superstar kid, you know, and you see this in football all the time, you know, where the parents give them money for every time they score and all that stuff, which I hate. You know, I don't think you should reward that. You need to reward the fact they're turning up and they're playing hard. But the teaching point for me is, when you've got a superstar player, it's really easy just to keep bigging them up about how good they are. My thing is, you know, this isn't, you know, the saying I've used is England, and our little bit of England is a tiny backwater in a backwater of basketball. You are not competing against the best guys in England. You know, especially for young players, you're trying to compete against the best guys in Europe because that's the stage that you want to perform on. You're trying to compete against the best guys in high school in the States because they're the guys you're going to be competing for scholarships with. You know, so part of it for me is just about trying to raise aspirations. You know, I learned some bumpy lessons, you know, positive and otherwise, in Europe. But those are what they are. You know, the lesson from it for me is actually there's, as we've talked about, basketball's massive. It's the second largest team sport in the world in terms of sports federations. So there are millions of people playing across the world. That's who you're competing with. You're not just competing with this little group of kids you happen to have seen. And for some, that might change the mentality a little bit.
So you were playing at that level. We've talked about Kingston, and then obviously you made the transition back to the South Coast.
Can I just say, one of the names that Steve did bring up was Mike Spade.
Yeah.
Like, you played with Mike quite a lot. Again, he was a fan favourite, Mike Spade. I actually saw him in a jacuzzi, Steve, in a gym. I saw him in a jacuzzi. And I was sitting there looking at him going, where do I know that face from? Where do I know from? And then after a while of looking, I was like, holy crap, that's Mike Spade. Holy crap. But then by that point, I'd been looking for so long, I was like, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I have seen him, but I didn't speak to him. Silly, really, wasn't it?
Stared at him.
You've done better than I have. I've not seen Mike in a long time. I think he's still down in Portsmouth, Southampton way somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's around the Portsmouth area because of the gym he was going to. So yeah. But yeah, so I mean, you played with Mike a long time then, like from Portsmouth. You played with him definitely in Worthing.
Yeah, it was at those two places that I played with Mike. You know, he was a stretch five before stretch fives. You know, he was a 5-man that legitimately could shoot the three. We used to run plays for him to shoot the three. And so in a lot of ways, he was ahead of his time. Couldn't guard a stick on defense, though, which is one of the reasons why we ran such a good 1-3-1 zone defense, because, you know, you couldn't put Mike out on someone on the perimeter because they'd just destroy him. And I have to say as well, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying, probably the ugliest feet I've ever seen in the world. So I don't know if while you're in that jacuzzi, you're checking out his feet, man. But his dogs, man, they've done some miles. Let's just say that.
Well, I this is going to come up soon, but I know there's a three that he did hit that you would have, however ugly the shot is, you would have absolutely loved that moment. But I'm going to come on to that in a moment. So where have we got to? So we talked about
Steve's come back down to work. Well, come back to
Worthing. So
Worthing.
Transferred to Derby, and then came down to Worthing, and that was, I believe, Alan Cunningham's first big moment coaching. I think he'd done a bit of coaching, maybe even at Portsmouth, but this was him fully in charge, head coach and player.
Yeah, this was him as bona fide player coach. Basically, I left, as I explained, why I left Kingston because of the money. Finished out the season at Derby. Al made it really clear he was going to try and get a few of the Portsmouth guys back together in Worthing. And we were going there on a reduced budget for the Worthing Bears as well, because the 2 years before, I think they'd had a deal with Nissan and they'd managed to blow it in a short space of time. Sometimes players can be very irresponsible in how they use cars, shall we say. So we went there knowing there was a tiny little budget. But, you know, it was, to be blunt, better than what I was offered at Kingston the year before. It was with a bunch of guys I wanted to play with. You know, so we literally did get the old crew back together. So it was me, Colin, Alan, Colin Irish, Alan Cunningham, Mike Spade, Carl Patrick Wells. We had Brian Heron with us at the start of the season, but he decided, no, not Brian Heron. Oh, I'm so terrible with names. I can see him. He'll come to me. We had another guy who decided to leave, but Gary Smith was on that team as well. But essentially, you know, it was the five of us, six of us that were the key rotation in that squad. And we went on to have a pretty purple patch down there as a group. And obviously Herman Harid joined us the following year, and Cleve Lewis. And I love that team, man. I really love that team.
Paul's mentioned it before, but in Portsmouth, when we saw Worthing and when we saw you all come back together, and you've just said it yourself, it was like coming back to play with those guys. We looked at it as like that's
Portsmouth. That's Portsmouth.
That's
Portsmouth.
Did it feel like that?
It was, and there was a familiarity, obviously, because we played together. So, you know, and we were so competitive with all those things that we kind of cemented at Portsmouth. We were able to bring back here. You know, practices were ridiculously competitive. But no matter what, come game time, we did what we needed to do as a group. We were mature. We were slightly more mature then, because although our coach says he didn't really need to, you know, so with Cleve that second year with Cleve Lewis, even though Cleve was the bona fide point guard, whether I had the ball in my hands or not, I called 70% of the plays. You know?
Yeah, I heard it, but I've heard you say this before, where you were running the court without the ball.
Yeah, because it was that Cleve had some great strengths, but even on or off the court, he was a man of few words.
Oh, okay.
You know, so it was my job to fill the gap. And actually, the final year, so my third year, the year of our three-peat, when I left to go to Thames Valley at the end of finishing university. And then, long story short, I ended up coming back to Worthing right before the transfer deadline, playing Thames Valley in the first game. I was back at Worthing, playing terrible to the last quarter, and then beating them, you know, having 7 points in the fourth quarter and winning. and then getting them in the first round of the playoffs and beating them and going on to win the playoff. But that year, I've lost my thread now because I've gone bloody sideways. Where was I?
I think I could be wrong. Are you about to say this was like what some of your favourite playing days? Because I mean, you did a 3P there.
It was easy. It was easy to play together because we understood each other. I know what I was going to say, because somebody needed to run the team. And the year I left and came back, when I came back, I'd lost my role doing that on the team, and it felt really weird, and whereas before I'd left, if I happened to get the first outlet, Cleve would just go and I'd bring the ball up, or vice versa. And all of a sudden, Cleve was demanding the ball from me. And then we were away to Leicester, and one of the Gene Waldron, I think, elbowed Cleve in the head, and he had a skull fracture, where a little piece of his skull had been dented, and so he was out for about 6 weeks.
Wow,
Bloody hell!
Just a little elbow.
Just a little elbow.
Wow, that's nice.
So he was out for about 6 weeks, but that 6 weeks gave me a chance to start running the team again, and he came back maybe 2 or 3 games before the end of the season, before the playoffs started, and we just got into a rhythm. We finished 7th in that 3rd year of our 3P, 7th, right? But we'd finished the year really strong. Suddenly, me and Cleve had clicked again, and we got a rhythm, and then we just got a roll into the finals, and the rest is history. Winning the 3P. But yeah, if Cleveland hadn't got injured, I don't know if we would have done it. And I'm not sure anybody's won from 7th place, finishing the league since then.
I don't know.
I haven't looked.
That's a great.
I would not have thought so. I don't doubt it.
I'll have to check. Mark, there you go. There's your job to check.
I will check indeed.
But I'm not sure when is the date. I'm now referring to something that I said. We'll come to that. So obviously you had a bit of time at Thames Valley, and then you left. Now I don't know if it was the next game that you played after coming to Worthing, because it was like I think you were like Thames Valley, and then like 3 days later you were playing against Thames Valley, aren't you?
It was exactly that. So the tiny bit of the background, again, like I said, I think I was jinxed. So I've had a number of clubs go broke on me. I left Kingston because they wanted to cut my salary. Then I'm done at Thames Valley. We win the National Cup. The Monday morning afterwards, I get a letter saying we're going to cut your salary because we want to stay below the salary cap, and we want to bring another player in. I'm like, no. I'm on my contract. And if not, then you need to release me on a free contract, on a free transfer. And that's what I forced through, which meant that, so literally that Monday evening, I practiced with Thames Valley. I practiced with Worthing on Wednesday.
And then the game is Saturday, is it?
And I practiced with Worthing on Friday, and I played the game on Saturday.
Brilliant.
And how did that game go?
Well, now this is my question for Steve. In Worthing, they talk about a game against Thames Valley as the greatest game ever played in the UK. Was it that first game back, or was it the playoffs?
No, it was the later game.
Okay.
It was the one later on. That game was a close game, but I was in a fog for 3 quarters. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, I don't think. And and again, Thames Valley was supposed to win. They were second in the league at the time. But 4th quarter, I was just like, man, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to go. And I ended up scoring 7 points in the 4th quarter, and we won the game. And that set us off on a little bit of a run. And then, as I said, Cleve got injured pretty much straight after, and I got to get back into a groove of running the team and telling everybody what offense we're going to run next time, including Al. I used to call a lot of our offenses. And Cleve came back in, and we just slotted back, and it was poetry in motion through to the end of the season, last team standing.
That must have been brilliant. having a huge impact on beating your old team. Just go, you should have paid me. You should have, and like, done. There you go. You're out. No,
Well,
like,
so I have to tell you, because we got them first round of the playoffs, and it was best of 3, which is back to this year now, funnily enough. So we finished 7th, and Valley finished 2nd, so we played them best of 3. We beat them at their play. We beat them at their play. No. We beat them at our place in the first game. We lost midweek to them in the second game, so we had to go back to play them again for the decider. I hit 4 or 5 threes in the third quarter to blow the game open, and we won the game comfortably. I can very clearly remember standing at the end of the game, looking at the guy that was the owner of the club as he walked out the gym. He didn't have anything to say to me. That's okay. I had the last laugh.
Yeah, like what you did on the court did all the talking, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
But I know the specific game against Thames Valley, and I think we spoke about this. Yeah, no, we did with Colin Irish, because what I loved about Colin's, I guess, basketball mind was he recited the last 2 minutes of the game to us.
Yeah, he did.
Like literally every play. I said to him, Colin, that was like 40 years ago, and you've just recited the last 2 minutes, to the point I had to go and check it, and yeah, exactly what he said. Well, I've only got the last minute of the play, but yeah, you talked about Mike Spade hitting his 3-point shooting. You guys were down to Thames Valley by 6 points, 73-79, a minute left on the clock. And this is the game people in Worthing say is the greatest game that's ever been played in Worthing. And you end up winning by 3, 82-79. So in the last minute, you guys score 9 points. Mike Spade with a 3-pointer. For some reason, it says Mike Spade hits an unlikely 3-pointer. And then, so that Worthing are down by 3 with 15 seconds left. Colin Irish hits a 3. He shoots a 3, but he's fouled. He gets all 3 free throws. Game tied. 6 seconds left. The Tigers lose possession, and then Cleve Lewis heaves it from the halfway line. Boom, game.
I do remember that game, but not to the level of detail that Colin does. Because my focus, especially when a lot of the offensive stuff is going on, is thinking about the defensive end. Talk about handfuls to guard. Nigel Lloyd was another one. He was just brilliant at keeping you off balance. And exactly the thing with Nigel, whereas with Steve Montreg, you had no clue where he wanted to go or what he wanted to do. With Nigel, you know where he wants to go. You just can't stop him getting there. He was a handful. So I had, my whole mindset was, how am I going to stop Nigel? How do I make sure he has to give up the ball and can't get the shot that he wants? So that's my mindset. If we're in our zone, okay, right, so what am I covering? Where am I going to have to be? I'm into what's next, and that's where my focus was. And I said a lot of those details I would not have remembered. Colin's done a way better job than I could of recalling the whole sequence. The thing is, the week before that game, we played in an almost identical game. I hit a 3 from almost the same spot as Cleve did to take the game to overtime, which I think we lost. I think we lost in overtime the week before, having hit a buzzer beater to tie it up. And then Cleve went and did that the following week, and we ended up winning the games.
Wow.
They still talk about that series in Worthing 40 years later. Was it 40 years? 30 years later.
Yeah. Jeez.
30 years later.
In terms of people that you've played with in a teammate capacity, which teammates stood out for you as the ones that helped you in your basketball journey in terms of not just advice, but knowledge, or giving you once of those extra steps and things that you can't honestly put your finger on?
So I have to give credit, to a couple of people. First, I'll start with Colin. Colin makes you tougher. All right, playing with him, you're in fight or flight. Either you're prepared to fight with him, to gain his respect almost, or you got to leave. And some people couldn't take it because he'll be on you. If you make a mistake, he'd be on you, not because he was mad at you, but because he wants you to be successful for the team, because he wants the team to be successful, because he sees something else. And so he'd be on you. And so he makes you tougher. And again, if you can deal with Colin, you can deal with anybody. In terms of that competitive drive, it's Alan Cunningham. He's unbelievable. He was unbelievable. Just as a gap, after I'd retired, I got coaxed back into playing mainly home games for like half a season with Worthing Thunder in NBL 1. We drew Thames Valley. Sorry, we drew Solent in the playoffs when Colin and Alan were at Solent. And when I tell you, in the first quarter, I watched Alan Cunningham, aged nearer to 50 than he was to 30 or 40 even. I watched him put an absolute clinic on a 23-year-old, 24-year-old American, forward, same height, same size as him. I'll put a clinic on him. When I tell you, imagine every move you can make from the free throw line in order to get a basket. All right? Al caught the ball on the free throw line 9-10 times in that first half and showed a different way of how to score. Jump shot, pump fake, one dribble, jump shot, pump fake, dribble, finish at the basket, catch and shoot, step back. He put the whole repertoire on this guy and absolutely destroyed us. 40, must have been 47, 48 years old at the time. But again, I think Al just embeds that competitive spirit in his teams, and we definitely had that at Portsmouth. We definitely had it in Worthing. And again, you just got to have a look at their records. You look at how much Alan won. Wherever he was a winner. And the same with Colin. Colin just won a lot. And so if you got guys like that around you, you're going to be, if you can take on board some of that, you're going to be successful.
And I guess just going on something you just said there, I guess Colin Irish isn't going to be as passionate about motivating you if he doesn't think you have that ability.
Exactly that.
Nice.
So I'd say probably the teammate I wish I'd been able to play with longer, Andrew Bailey. So we played obviously together at Portsmouth, in training more than in matches. And then when Colin Irish took over coaching at Worthing, he brought Andrew Bailey in. And when I tell you that it's like we read each other's minds at both ends of the floor, we just really clicked. And then we're in the cup final, playing great, and Andrew got hurt and never really recovered the whole rest of the season. And we never got our mojo back, and we never got another chance to play together. So that's what I do regret, because the two of us were playing phenomenal as a backcourt, with Colin and Al, and two pretty terrible Americans, as I know Colin mentioned at the time. Well, one really terrible and the other one just okay.
I think also, just to add to Mark's question, as far as teams, and by all means you do not have to say Portsmouth here, but as far as teams, you did do the three-peat with Worthing. I mean, would that be your favourite team of your career?
I would say, yeah, it was. That's the highlight for me. And it's a funny thing, they say professional athletes tend to settle in the town where they were most successful, which is maybe why I'm in Worthing, who knows. But I enjoyed my time in Worthing. I was here a long time as well, though. And once I got my first job here, then it became home, and my kids started growing up here and going to school here. It was important that they stay settled, which is why when I took a job working in Bristol, I'm the one that's been on the road, commuting and staying up in Bristol when I needed to, and then running around like crazy on the weekend to get my coaching in, as well as coaching on a Monday and a Friday at each end of the week. So yeah, it's been fun. I love Worthing, I really do. It's been a nice place to bring our kids up. We enjoy living here. I'm 5 minutes from the beach, not too far from London. Sarah's family's still in Portsmouth, so yeah.
And as far as Portsmouth FC Basketball Club goes, if that team didn't get sold, what do you think the future could have been?
Oh wow,
Ooh, great question.
that's a really interesting question. We were happy there. As players, we were happy. We got what we signed on a dotted line for. We turned up to get paid the same place the footballers got paid. We'd all go early, end up in the Pompey pub with the likes of Vince Hilaire and was it Phil Knight, the goalkeeper?
Alan
Phil
Knight.
Alan Knight.
Alan Knight. We'd end up, playing pool with those guys, eating my bacon and egg sandwich while chatting to Vince Hilaire about his new Vince Hilaire, the winger, about his the new MR2 he's got parked outside. You know what I mean? It was nuts. But we got what we asked for. And it's the only I'm just looking at the list of places I've played. It's the only place where I got exactly what I signed up to for all the time I was there. I talked about being really poorly paid the first year at Portsmouth. My second year, I negotiated a win bonus. So I was like Jason, I was much happier in my second year. I had an increase in salary, and we were playing 2 or 3 games a week and pretty much winning all of them, which was seeing my salary go up another massive chunk on those wins. So yeah, years 2 and 3, they were brilliant. And obviously I was the only player to be there right at the very beginning, right until the very end of the Portsmouth franchise. So yeah, but it's still, I'm still in Portsmouth pretty regularly. My wife's there even more regularly than I am. It's definitely still has huge memories for me. I'm driving past it every week. But I love Portsmouth. I had a great time there. I feel like I grew up in Portsmouth.
Steve, if you ever want to come see a Portsmouth Force game, just let me know. When the season's back on, I'll get tickets like that. Not a problem at all. Just want to move to your England career, because you had, I want to say 16, 17, 18 caps for England.
Yeah, 18 caps.
18 caps. But, you were also captain of GB early in your career. And in that part of your career, you're playing with, is it John Amici you were playing with?
Yeah. So again, this tied in with me being so I left college to come and play at Portsmouth. 5 years later, so early 20s, I went to uni, and so I then did my 4 years at uni. And while I was at uni, I was already playing. Who was I playing for at the time? I'm trying to think. I think I might have been at Manchester then, or no, hold on. Yeah, I think I was either at Kingston or Derby. It was that first year. I got invited to go to train with the World Student Games GB team, GB students, and we'd play against. We played a couple of friendly games, including against GB under 23s. But yeah, John Amici was on that team. Kurt Samuels, I don't know if you remember that name. He
Kurt
was on
Samuels.
that team in Manchester. And I'm going to think of a couple of other names before we finish, I hope. but we were a pretty decent squad. And we went out to Indiana ahead of the tournament, which was in Buffalo, upstate New York. And we played a number of friendly games there. We were playing really well. I picked up a bit of a knee injury though, unfortunately, during that. I was well enough to play, but I couldn't practice as hard as I liked. And I'd spent the whole time while we were at the games, when I wasn't playing, I was in treatment. But it was stupid the way they did the pools. And I will say this, so we were in pools of 3, okay? Pools of 3, that's right. So you're playing 2 games to decide who goes through to the next round. And in our pool, we had China and, I don't remember who the other team were. But we got China in our opening game, and we lost to them in a really close game. And then we beat the second team. I can't remember who they were. We beat them, so we were 1-1. But the only teams that went through to the quarterfinals was the first place team in each of 8 groups of 3.
Oh no!
Now Ireland were in a group with Hong Kong, and I think it was Malaysia or somebody, but Malaysia didn't turn up. So Ireland played Hong Kong twice and ended up in the top 8. So making it to the quarterfinals, and the top 8 all played each other, and then they had a finals and all the rest of it. So we watched Ireland getting absolutely beaten by everybody else. We won every game the rest of the tournament, ended up finishing 9th. But just, literally first game, we playing this Chinese team. And a lot of people think China, small people, can't be much of a challenge. There are a billion of them. So 1 or 2 are quite tall. They started 7'4", 7'2", 6'7", 6'4", and a 6'2" point guard was the starting 5. And John Amici was our tallest player at 6'9", although he had an incredible tournament. But yeah, they were just slightly too much for us in that first game out of the blocks.
Wow.
Otherwise, I think we could have had the best ever finish at the World Student Games.
Well, I got to ask, because I have seen that you played in this tournament in Buffalo, like you said. Is that in the Bill Stadium?
So the opening ceremony was at the Buffalo Bill Stadium.
Okay.
We had 80,000 people.
Bloody hell.
And it was just like the Olympics, when they introduce each country and you walk in with your flags and you're waving and you're wandering around and everyone's giving out pins. It was incredible.
I mean, that would be a moment to remember for the rest of your life,
That
isn't it?
Awesome.
80,000 people and you get to wave your flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. The frustrating thing was we'd have to play that first game earlier that day. So we weren't in the best mood when we first
no.
with the rest of the team. But it's the whole of the GB team was there. So we're there with the swimmers and the divers and the hockey players and whatever other sport. I can't remember what other sports, with athletics, all of them. So we were all together. It was a brilliant experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And got to play with John Amici at a formative stage of his career, when I think he still had a year of college to go at that stage. Great. We had a great chemistry on that team. It was a good experience.
Walking out of that ceremony, I mean, could that be proudest moment representing your country, or would it be another moment?
Probably my first England cap was a really proud moment for me. But my proudest moments have been watching my kids.
That was my next question. Yeah.
Sorry, man. Watching my kids represent England and Great Britain, definitely some of my proudest moments watching that.
Whatever you were going to say, I was going to, are you more proud of their achievements?
I'm definitely more proud of their achievements than anything that I've done. I think my 2 children are both incredible human beings, but in terms of basketball, they've both absolutely made their mark and are continuing to do so.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is a silly question. This probably is a ridiculous question. But when we say, I know the answer for football, but I don't know what the answer is in basketball. Because in football, you get when they say, "Oh, I've got 18 caps," you actually get a cap, do you? Do you get anything in basketball? Like, you know,
No.
remember when we were in school, we had that little cap.
Yeah,
Remember
that's
that?
what it is.
You
isn't
actually get one with the England thing on it,
it? Yeah.
but you don't get
Football.
anything that basketball wise.
No, that's my Bachelor of Science. Sorry. Somewhere I've got a little, it's packed up in the garage. I've got a little plaque that congratulates me on achieving my first England cap.
Oh wow.
That's all I've ever had.
Well, you get something for your first cap. That's really special. That's really cool.
Garage box special.
It was hanging up at my mum's house, my mum and dad's house for years. And
Oh, lovely.
cleared there, it's ended up in my pile of stuff. So, yeah, I'm not sure I'll be bringing it out anytime soon, though.
That
but
is
yeah.
pretty cool. That is a cool thing to have. You got a cap for your country.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know why this just popped in my mind. I don't know why, but I remember seeing Mike Tyson in an interview, and he was showing someone all his belts that he had won over the years and something, and then he just went, "This is all junk compared to my children. It's all junk. Not interested in it at all." I don't know why that just popped in my mind. Kind of similarity there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So
Someone
yeah.
said to me once, I said, what do you want to do with your kids? And he said, I just want them to be better than me. I said, what playing sport? He went, 100%. I just want them. I want them to beat me. I want them to be an even better
100%.
version of me.
100%.
Yeah, and I thought that's really, you know, when you think about it, that's what you want, isn't it? That's what any parent wants.
100%. And I think the thing is as well, you can't. I mean, some parents do it. You know, the Williams sisters. You know, there are others where the parents go, right, you're going to be a great tennis player, and I'm going to coach you to be that, and they end up being that. I'm not sure. I think that's the exception rather than the rule. I think what I've found is we're just going to expose you to lots of stuff, and what you enjoy, we're going to do a bit more of. You know, the fact that, yeah, I know a bit about basketball and we can help open some doors to introduce you to it, doesn't mean that that's what you have to do because your dad says you have to do it. Now, I can remember, again, with both of them, but more with Luke probably because of the age he was at. He was playing local league football at the same time, and there'd be weekends when it's like, so Luke, you've got a clash this weekend, you've got National League under-13s basketball game, or you've got your local league football match against local league nobodies. No, I wouldn't quite say it like that. What do you want to do this weekend, Lee? And he go, I really want to play football this weekend, Dad. I was like, okay. And I would go off and coach the rest of the team while he went off and played football. And I never once went, oh, we lost today and he should have been there, or we won today, and you know, those were his choices, because the journey for sport has to be yours. It can't be somebody else's. And you know, yeah, we can show you opportunities in that and see what happens, but that journey, the work to be successful, only you can do that. So it's got to be yours. And it's been the same with Kyla. You know, she's been around basketball since she was old enough that I could say, right, Kyla, you stay there and don't move, right? Because once she got to that age, given I work away all week, when I got home, I'd try and take both. You know, if I'm taking Luke to basketball practice, Kyla would come with me to give my wife a break, and she was just around the sport all the time. And we've been talking about it a bit recently. She was saying she doesn't remember a time when she didn't know how to play basketball. You know, so she doesn't remember a time when she didn't understand the rules or what the fundamentals of it were, because it's just been around it. I used to take her along to under 13s practices as a 9, 10-year-old, and when I've got the kids doing the plank, she'd do it with them, and she'd be better at it. So I'd embarrass the kids by going, look, she's holding the plank, why can't you? And they're all wobbling around trying to hold the plank. So she's just always been around it and absorbed the game, I guess, and it's gone from there.
And talking about, like youth development and stuff like that, I mean, we got to say, like, we all had an absolutely blast at the To The Hoop camps. They were great, weren't they?
So did we. We had a blast too. If you knew how tired we were on some of those days at To The Hoop, there were times when we might disappear at lunchtime for half an hour, 40 minutes. You go, oh, the coaches have suddenly disappeared. It's just the young coaches around. We'd gone off for a nap. we definitely, without it being all about alcohol, because it definitely wasn't. But we were up. So we'd just be up talking, playing cards, hanging out all night, coming in, checking on you, like all sleeping in the hall, making sure you weren't up to any mischief. And then back up and, by the last years of To The Hoop, the hours of sleep were getting less and less. You start off the week quite well as coaches, you're asleep by 1 o'clock or whatever. Then it's 2, then it's 3. By the end of the last couple of years, you might get an hour's sleep if you were lucky. But then, I don't think you guys noticed, because we'd just come out and we'd coach you guys really hard and want you to improve.
It was definitely formative. It was definitely, and it just stuck with us for all those. It doesn't matter what it's at, or where anyone who you meet certainly in this area, if they went to one of those camps, if you just say To The Hoop, they'll smile and they know exactly what that means to them, and it's just more than basketball.
Yeah, and you know what? Personally at the To The Hoop, all the kids got assigned a coach, didn't they?
Yes.
I was always assigned Steve Nelson. Always. Steve's my coach. So, but I remember I was actually thinking about you the other day, because I think we must have played a game and I was missing free throws. And I haven't seen it. I'd have to see how you shoot your free throw. But you took me to one side and you said, take your shooting arm and align that, rather than align my whole body to the ring, align my right arm. Now, I don't know if that's how you shoot. Is that how you shoot a free throw?
Yeah, it is.
So I did that and I was more successful with my shooting. So anytime I've shot a free throw ever since, I've always lined my whole right side of the body right to the hoop. And the reason I was thinking about you the other day was because there was an under, or he's either 17, 8 or 18. But he's kind of got into the National League team-ish, but he's kind of up and down. He's just got a bit of development to go. But he was really struggling with his free throw. And I literally took what Steve said to me and I passed it on to him. And all of a sudden, some of his free throws started going a bit more successful. And I said, you got to thank Steve Nelson for that. That's from Steve Nelson. So that's all from the To The Hoop camp. But yeah, I mean, that's passing it all down. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think that everybody's shooting action is slightly different. But it just is, I think for me, it's just helping people to find a consistent way that's successful. And sometimes it is slight technical adjustments, like making sure your shoulders are square, making sure your feet are pointing at the basket. Because, and again, and again, it's that follow through. So you start, and I'm demonstrating, which is great for audio, but, you start in the shooter's pocket, and that follow through is right through into the basket, and you get a nice snap on the wrist. And, without getting caught up in all of the details, for me, it's if your feet are pointing at the basket and your shoulders are square, you got a good chance of consistently making shots. And if you're long and short, that's good. If you're going left and right, then you really need to work on, on stabilizing your form and working out what's wrong.
Yeah. The other alternative to that is at the end of the To The Hoop camp, just get your basketball and ask Steve to touch it. Because if he touches it, the magic comes off the book. Can you remember that, Steve?
I do, yeah. And again, hearing you back in Jason's podcast, I have to say I was driving down the motorway in absolute stitches listening to that.
I remember walking back, going to my brother, going, Steve Nelson, like, literally just grabbed hold of this basketball. Like, this is going to work now. Like that, it was like what Space Jam mentality, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, they were absolutely great days. And you know, we got to talk about, you know, Mickey Byrne, the legend known as Mickey Byrne. What was your relationship with Mick like?
It's probably not as close as some. I mean, Mick was, as always, was around all the time, but because Andrew Bailey was playing juniors, you know, we'd come along a bit earlier and watch some of Bell's games when Mick was around. We'd help out on some of the camps Mick was doing. But for me, it was kind of fleeting. Got to know him a bit better later on when he was over at Solent. We spent a bit more time with him there. He's obviously a legend on the South Coast. I know how hard he's worked, how much he's done, you know, over years and years, you know, starting teams, getting things going, getting access to gyms. You know, and I have to say, the bit I really enjoyed on your podcast with Jason was the conversation about the little gym next to the ground that no longer exists.
Yeah.
You know, but that tiny little gym that wasn't much bigger than a badminton court, you know, but was a scene of some amazing battles from us bench boys that weren't playing very much. Love that story and the whole idea of getting in that gym. And I'm going to share one story with you from there. We're playing 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 in there, and I'm guarding Andrew Bailey. He steals the ball. He's on the break. I'm chasing him back. I'm sure I'm going to time this block to just pin him against the backboard because I was really good at timing, doing that. So I'm running back. I'm timing it, and as I go to time my block, he just throws the ball really high off the backboard. I go sailing through out of bounds. The ball lands back in his hands, and he laughs as he lays it in. That was in that little gym.
And that was a small gym, wasn't it? That was like, I mean, I remember it being quite big, but I was a kid, but it was like 2 badminton courts or something, wasn't it?
At the most.
Yeah.
It was. I would say it's probably a court and a half long. You know, maybe so you have a court with some space on either side of it, and a basketball hoop there and there. It was tiny. But again, you know, and you couldn't really practice your 3-point shooting in there because you'd hit the beams on the ceiling. But, you know, working on free throw line downwards and aggression and defense, it was great for all of that.
So those Portsmouth practices, like, were they as, I don't want to say bad, were they as hard as everyone says?
Yes. Yeah. Again, the only reference for me then is back at Worthing with Alan Cunningham. And again, I've had lots of different coaches in between. Kevin Cadle's practices are super tough, but for a different reason. They're more, the drills they've got you doing make the practice hard. Whereas, you know, with Portsmouth and with Worthing, it was the players in practice that made practice hard. Do you know what I mean? It was how hard we competed against each other, which is why it was difficult. Not because the coach was making us run really fast and do loads of press-ups in a really short space of time. No, as soon as there was anything competitive, whether it's, you know, 1st to 10 on free throws or different spots on the floor, the ultra competitiveness of the group came out. And again, it's the same core team in both Portsmouth and Worthing that had those traits, and I absolutely believe in them.
And I got to ask, this is just a personal question, really, is taking away all emotion that you have with certain teams. You've played for some teams with some iconic kits. What is your personal favourite of all time kits you've ever worn?
Gosh. Favourite kit? Oh. Favourite kit? I really don't. I don't know. We've had so many horrible, scratchy kits that were not made out of light, air-breathing cotton.
It's like rugby kits, wasn't it?
Oh, they
It's
were
like that
ridiculous.
jersey.
And you'd be 2 stone heavier with the water they'd hold by the end of the game than you were at the start of it. I don't know if I've really got a favourite kit. I generally can't think of one that super stands out. There's some weird ones. Like I think we had, Rug Doctor as a sponsor when we were at Worthing at one point. So you've got Rug Doctor plastered across your shirt. Yeah, but nothing really stands out with me going, oh, that was a kit, And again, we were in that interesting I've been through all the transitions. In the 80s, when I started playing, we had the booty hugger shorts that were, super short, super flary. You got to make sure you wear something quite tight underneath them while you're playing. And we went from that to, the shorts that come down below your knees and they're as baggy can be after, after the guys that, we've been talking way too long. I'm losing names here. For goodness sake, I'm going to just move on.
Yeah, it was like that wave of culture of like kits where they're just shorts. Just I think Jordan with him in the 90s, it went
was Iverson. It was like the Iversons and everyone. It was, like you say, Jordan and that, and they brought it down. But then it was Iverson, and it just went.
This can be completely wrong, But Michigan, the Fab Five.
Fab Five, yes, it just come to me as you said it. Jalen Rose, that whole group. They were the ones that brought in the baggy shorts and the black socks.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah,
yes, I've been through the whole era of different styles of kit, let alone worrying about colours and the materials they're made of. So I don't really have a favourite.
And it's kind of working its way back up now, isn't it? Hopefully it won't go back to the 80s level, like Bird and Magic.
No, we don't need the spray-on shorts. We don't need them coming back. Looks like you're going out for a jog, but just. And at least we know now, thanks to Steve's guidance, that you should always wear a jock strap underneath those.
I've done the jock straps, man. I want more coverage.
I mean, I've only got one last question, Steve, and it's really more of a personal question of how you dealt with stuff, because I remember, I don't know if it was listening or reading about you saying that you were very focused on like just wanting to play basketball, and if it was the right decision you were going to go to, and then at a certain point you were like, no, I need to get my education sorted, and that's when you went to university. So like, I mean, that's a huge step to take, to be doing a degree and being a professional basketballer at the same time. Is that right? Was it easy? Was it hard, especially with all your traveling as well for university?
But the funny thing is, the most successful period of my career started when I was still in university. Started while I'm trying to juggle, training 3-4 times a week in Worthing in years 2 and 3, with a full-time degree in London. But I think sometimes you need something else on you, to focus on, so that when you do come to basketball, you appreciate it for what it is. Because sometimes it can become a chore and mundane. And, I decided a long time ago I didn't want to be a professional coach. I wanted to volunteer and put my energy in that way, but I never wanted to be, that to be my job. Because it's different when it's your job. As you know, with anything, it's different when I work for England basketball compared to now. Now I can, be truly honest about what I think and feel and what I see happening. When you're working in it, you can become really blink about it.
Yeah, it's that's certainly a story and a half, like a journey that you've had. Is there anything in your career you think I'd have liked one more win?
I retired too early, and you're a long time retired. I was 32 when I retired, and I stopped because I couldn't juggle the job I'd got. Ironically, just starting work for England basketball, with playing professional basketball. I couldn't juggle the two because again, you need to be in the same place for practice 3-4 times a week, and I couldn't do that in a national role where I could be anywhere around the country meeting, evening meetings to meet with volunteers, all of that. But I don't have any regrets. I enjoyed my career. My annoyance is because I was playing really well. I was playing really well when I started. I felt like I got to 28, 29 before I really understood my game, and had to utilize it, and make those live decisions. But yeah, there's nothing I regret. It was time to step up. I'd have liked to have had the space to go, I'm retiring next year, so this is going to be my testimonial year, and to plan it a bit and to enjoy it. It just kind of stopped, and that's sometimes a bit. It still bothers me 20 odd years later. So yeah, I'd like to play a bit longer.
Well, look, if you ever want to get back into coaching, National League, Portsmouth will snap you up. That'd be amazing.
Always the peddler. He's always the peddler. But
I will keep that under advisement. Thank you very much.
I've just realised we're about to throw Steve under a bus, because normally we give our guests lots of warning with this because it's such a hard question.
No, don't need to do. He wants to be under the pressure. He says he thrives in it.
Hit me with it.
So we always have a couple of questions that we nicely round it up with. The first one's quite simple. If you got that clutch shot, it's the game-winning shot. Who you passed it? It could be any player. It could be a player you played with. It could be yourself. It could be anyone in the NBA, FIBA, anyone. Who would be? Who's that clutch player that you think? I know I'm going to give them that ball, and they're going to take that clutch shot. They got the best odds.
I'm trying to think of the right words. I would love to say here it would be Luke, but that would be a bit incestuous probably to talk about my own child in that light.
No,
he's definitely somebody who I think he's clutch, and he's someone who you want making decisions in the last 5 minutes of the game. But again, I can't move too far from, I've talked a lot about Colin and Alan. Probably another player that I would really want to give the ball to in a clutch moment is a Hall of Famer. It's Pete Scantlebury. I just think he's the guy who just went about his business without flapping around, without any grandiosity. He just got on with his job, was efficient, would dunk on you in a heartbeat, would block your shot when you least expect it. Just an ultra competitor, and finds a way to score, finds a way to finish around the hoop. So, he would be on that in that group for me. So I'm going to go with Pete Scans. I'm going to stick with my boys.
Love it. I love that, and I love the fact you chose your son as well. That's fantastic. And first one to do that as well. So that's very cool. So the second question, which is slightly harder.
We need a jingle for this.
We do need a jingle
for
this.
Pine.
Five and Pine. Yep, 5 all-time favourite players and 1 on the bench and reserve.
Okay, this isn't going to be too difficult for me.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This can be NBA, UK, people you played with, whatever you want.
See, I never really idolised the NBA and all of that because we had so little access to it. So my idols were the guys I've played with, or the ones that were just ahead of me.
I love that.
I'll tell you what I would want on that team. Vince Brooking, played at Manchester, about 6'5". You could play him 1 through 4. Unbelievably versatile. He was the first guy I watched and my jaw just dropped. Because he could just do everything. He was incredible. So I have Vince Brooking on my team. I will have Colin Irish and Alan Cunningham and Pete Scantlebury on my team, because I think it doesn't matter who we're playing against, what defense they're in. You know, so Vince Brooking, Colin, Allen, Pete. Oh, and then I need a guard. It would have to be Luke. It would have to be Luke.
Amazing.
You know, that's my 5. And then the one on the bench for me.
Who's warming that pine?
Oh, I'm assuming I'm coaching this group.
You can be on the bench. You can start whatever you want.
No. I think my bench player would probably be a Steve Bontrager. That's how much respect I had for him. I think that's a pretty decent lineup. You know, Luke at the point. You got Pete and Colin that can swing as 2 or 3, and then you got slightly on the sides Alan Cunningham, but he'll compete with the best of them. And then Vince Brooking, he can just plug it anywhere. That team would be scary. And I like teams where you can switch a lot of the guys around. You know, so I like similar sized teams. So, you know, some coaches like dedicate a little point guard and dedicate a big man. I quite like it if you've got an even team. There's some things you can do that's quite unique with that. So there's my 5. And then I got a killer off the bench in Bontrager.
That's great. I really like that. So I have one final question. I'd love to know what you think the future for basketball in the UK holds.
Oh, I think you're going to be something light.
Yeah, it's just a nice, easy one to wrap up with.
I think there are some huge opportunities and some big investments. We just need to get our house in order and stop tripping over ourselves, you know, and recognize that actually all the different constituent parts need each other. You know, the BBL doesn't succeed without strong national governing bodies across Great Britain that have developed good structures and processes for engaging schools, for getting children who are in primary school to pick up a ball and to fall in love with the sport, and having pathways then for them to go and experience that. And with a sport as cheap to enter as ours, we shouldn't have any excuses. And I think if those things happen, then it becomes easier to make the case for additional facilities, additional franchises, you know, commercial investment. But we've got to have a vision and a plan. I don't know if we're going to get there in the next 5 years, but I have real high hopes for this generation and for people like Kieran Achara, who are really trying to make a difference at the top level. And also people, you know, like Sam Nita, who are working in the cracks, trying to make a difference. I think we need people like them who are selfless and trying to do it for the right reasons.
Agreed.
I didn't answer your question. That was a good political answer.
No, I think that's fair because it is so widespread, but it's nice for people to understand that there is a future and there's lots of people who want it all to work. It's
Absolutely.
just trying to find a way.
Yeah, I think there's lots of people who just want to better the game, to bring more awareness to the game, to build the game. I mean, we go and watch NBA games, or I was in Australia watching a game there, and it's just, you just look at it and go, we wish it was this big in the BBL. And that's one of the things that when we started this podcast, we were like, not that this podcast is going to turn and create 10,000 seated arenas, but it'd be amazing if we could do something really, really small that would contribute to that.
Well, 250,000 streams to date. That's not
yes,
too bad,
Steve,
is it?
this is a milestone episode. Milestone episode, 250,000 downloads.
Yeah.
So far.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's nice. It's people all around the world, which is fantastic, and hopefully they're getting an insight into basketball in the UK and us viewing basketball around the world.
Mm-hmm. And there's some really knowledgeable people in this country, and as you said, people with lots of passion. We just got to find a way to use them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. When you sneeze, you got to mute my one as well, because you're muting yours, but we can hear you through mine.
Wow, I know.
I can't believe we've actually been talking for 3 hours. I looked over as Steve was talking, and I thought it was going to be about an hour and 20, and it's like close to 3 hours. That says, yeah, we have these when people start talking, and it's just so interesting. You just get time just goes like that, and you know, I feel like we could talk for another 3-4 hours, and it would feel like an hour's only just gone past. But yeah, Steve, huge thank you for gracing the podcast. You know, we think a lot of you, everyone down south and around the UK thinks a lot of you. You know, I was just writing some notes when you on your last question, just kind of round the show up, and that was, you know, Steve Nelson. He's been an absolute inspiration to the game of basketball inside and outside of the court. He's definitely been an inspiration to the game in the Portsmouth area. Without, you know, the contribution of people like Steve Nelson, Colin Irish, Alan Cunningham, you wouldn't have the Portsmouth Force nowadays. You wouldn't have the Portsmouth Fury. Nope. You wouldn't have this podcast. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Nope. The actual impact and continuing impact that you guys have had on the game is huge. And yeah, it's just been an absolute honor and a privilege to have you on the show, Steve. So thank you very much.
No, thank you, and you know, the honor is mine, and I'm, you know, basketball's given me a huge amount, and I've just been happy to try and give a little bit back here and there, and to try to contribute, and we'll continue to try to do that in my way, and we'll continue to shape for what I think is right. So yeah, let's keep the fight going, because I genuinely believe this sport has got such huge potential, and it's on us. You know, it's on us to make it work. There are enough other examples that we've talked about around the world and around Europe. You know, and I'll leave you with this, because again, if you go back to some of those record books 20 years ago or so, we were beating Turkey, we were beating Germany consistently with the best lineups. You know, we were beating the French. You know, I can remember going to France with Portsmouth pre-season and playing Gravelines, Limoges, and coming away undefeated. You know, going and playing German, European, you know, teams, Dutch teams, and coming away undefeated. You know, we have to invest and believe that British players are what we're doing this for. It can't be just about driving foreign players into a British market where they can build their portfolio and disappear off and get paid better somewhere else. You know, at some point we've got to invest in our own and make sure that we can enable more of them to reach that top 8.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
What a way to end.
Wow. What are you going to press then? I thought you were going to press the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it. Well, we have had legend, BBL legend, Steve Nelson, with a professional career with 8 titles, reaching the finals 7 times, 18 England caps. Steve, thank you very much for being on the show, and we have got some great guests coming soon.
Thank you.
Steve, thank you very much. If you haven't gone and listened to some of our episodes, we've got 91 of them out at the moment, and there'll be more coming on very soon. I have been Mark.
I've been Paul.
And I'm Steve.